Okay, it's a video for my 5 favorite earphones released in 2022. It's June, so we're halfway through the calendar year. Take a look at the 5 sets that I am most impressed with so far. First one's going to be the Yanyan Moonlight, so we'll call this one number 5. Go ahead and smoothly take a look at the graph. Sub bass over mid bass, mids, nice glide. It's got a gain that's appropriate. It's not obnoxious, it's not abrupt. It's got a dip. It's got a little subtle peak around 4.3 kilohertz. It's not really an issue at all. And then it falls down in the harmonic range. Almost everything that exists in that range, it's equal to the mid frequency actually, so it's very good tuning. There's 2 things about this to be concerned about or to be aware of. One is the mid bass lacks a little bit of slam and punch. It's got overall excellent tuning. In fact, I'd call it kind of a neutralish sounding set. It doesn't really overly impact anything. It's not shouty, it's not overly intense, it's not dark, it doesn't hit like a bass head set, but it's not stone cold really neutral in that area either, so it's kind of a jack of all trades in a way. The other thing to be aware of is that its price range is $649. There's a lot of killers and a lot of options there, including tribrids or other stuff. The IE600 is on this list, and it's up around there too. It's a single dynamic driver, but it's a good set. And this video is about the 5 sets that I picked that are notable in 2022, and this would be the 5th one. So this is the Yanyan Moonlight, 2 EST, 4 BA, 1 dynamic driver. Fit is fantastic. Tuning is good. It's the definition of safe. It doesn't do anything wrong. It's not going to rub people wrong who are sensitive to treble. It's not lacking in bass. Little bit, kind of a little bit. But I would say this would be number 5, and that is the Yanyan Moonlight. I recommended it. I recommend it now. Just be aware. There's lots of options in the price range, and that slam is, I wish it was just a little bit harder. And that's the Moonlight, number 5.
Number 4.
Okay, number 4. This is a set called the Seek Real Airship. It's a new company. I'll talk about the company in another video because there's 3 earphones and all of them are good to quite good, which is impressive for first 3 releases. Let's go ahead and rotate slowly, take a look. This is the frequency graph. We're looking at the green one. You can see relative to the Tantrum Oxygen, it has slightly more bass and slightly less upper mids. Let me go ahead and adjust this so that we're looking at the Olena in red instead. 2 points about the Olena that some people found to be unappealing. One was the intensity of the upper mids, which I can understand, and they were using filters to try to tampen that down. And another point was the low frequency, the sub bass and mid bass. So the Seek Real is basically a tweaked Olena, pretty much. So if you're interested in that profile, Michael Bruce's short bus mod, which does something kind of similar to this, I believe, it tamps down the upper mids and you get the perception of elevated bass, or it actually lifts up the bass. I haven't done the mod, but there's a lot of people that seem to be satisfied with it. This is a set that comes right out of the box, tuned just like that. Now, 2 problems. Again, this is a video for 5 sets in 2022 that I love and recommend, but everything has a plus and minus. The 2 points about this are, one is there's lots of dynamic drivers coming out, and they're all good depending on what you're looking for. And there are several that are like this set. The HANA 2021, the Olena, amongst others, are very similar to this set. So that would be a downside to consider. And on top of that, it's $179. The Olena is $100. I believe that you can get the original O2 for something like this, or maybe cheaper now. I'm not really sure. The HANA 2021 is obviously more affordable than both of these sets, if I recall correctly. So it's got some tough competition like number 5, the Moonlight has. I guess in 2022, everything's got a lot of competition now that I think about it. So it's got great tuning. You could take an Olena and pretty much do the same thing. It's using the same driver. But if you're not into DIY and you want what people are talking about in that sense, this would be the set, considering those 2 things, and then move forward and decide whether or not you want it. I find the replay to be excellent with a library like mine. Plays back low frequency. drops in West Coast, East Coast 90s hip-hop. It plays rock and roll, bass guitars, percussions are fine, male vocals are excellent. I want to look at this one more time because this is actually a really, really nicely tuned set. Let me go ahead and get the Olina out of there and just take a look at that. That's a nice job. And that's the first dynamic drive released by this company, and it's number 4 on my list, and that is the Seek Audio Airship. Okay, number 3.
Number 3.
This is the Sennheiser IE600. This is a very, very good set. I consider it one of the best sets that's been released, like the other 5 that I'm talking about today. It has its good points and bad points, like every single set of audio gear out there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the graph real quick. Sub bass over mid bass, got a nice glide that's similar to the Elysian X, which is perfect for me. It gives proper life, energy to low frequency instruments. Naturally glide into the mids. It's got a upper mids. It's got a gain region, ear gain region that's very nice. Upper mids are nice. Treble is a little bit boosted, and there are some things that you'll hear that with and some things that you won't. I did a post yesterday, non-related to this, where I talked about the anatomy of a cymbal crash. Cymbals, there's many kinds, but generally speaking, exist in the mid frequencies. That's where they're born. The strike, when the stick hits the cymbal, is right about there. That's the fundamental region in this area. The harmonic extension is usually 1 kilohertz and beyond. And if you take this area and you boost it more than the ear gain, you're giving, as things decay, they diminish in their size and in their volume. So when you take a part and then you boost it higher than the gain region, you're taking part of the cymbal, the main part that you're going to hear, and then the harmonic, the overtones are going to maybe sound a little louder to you than the original strike, which it's kind of odd. And for certain instruments, I would think that classical library, for a rock and roll library, it's definitely cymbals and sometimes electric guitars. For a classical library, it might be other things, but that is something that is notable to the ear because it's a lot of people's targets. My target, basically everybody's, has a gradual decline because this area is where harmonics kind of fall off. You don't want to take them away, but you don't want to put them up over. You don't want your graph, nobody has a target going this way because that's not the way that would sound normal. That would sound extremely, extremely odd. So everybody has targets that kind of fall away, including Harman and others, because that's what people who have been tested and asked and given feedback, they prefer that replay probably because it sounds most natural to them. So the one weak point of the i600 is the treble tuning. I'm okay with it because it's different, and otherwise it's an extremely excellent set. The other thing again is the price is in tribrid range or hybrids or whatever. You can buy a lot of stuff for around $700. So it's price like others in this list, and also that treble tuning can be a little bit intense for some people. So that's the i600. I personally love it. I think it's a fantastic set, but like everything, and as I mentioned before, nothing's perfect. Be aware. And that is number 3.
Number 2.
Okay, number 2 is the Raptgo Hook X. It's a planar plus piezo. They say it's a bone conduction driver. I don't know. I do know that I love the replay of the set. This is my favorite planar on the market right now. Listening to music, which is what its one single job is, I just love the replay. It's got some of the precision and the benefits of planar, but it's not in such a cold, analytical, sharp kind of a way that a lot of the other sets are that people are drawn to. I'm less drawn to that. I'm more drawn to this unique replay, which is kind of musical, and I just love it. They nailed it with this set. Let me take a look at the frequency graph. The sub bass over mid bass, it glides in good. It's got an upper mids that's a little bit polite. Then it gets to the treble, and there's a 8 to 10 little notch there. There's variations in measurements across the Squid Link database. Keep in mind that if you take a look at something like the Duna Vulcan, which is right there, and you take a look at everybody's squigs of that set, and then compare it to Dunu's using a grass multiple reseats, I trust them. They're very anal retentive. Very thorough is, I guess, the way you could put it. There's some variations between the squig links of that set, and I don't think it's the Vulcan that's got any variations. I think it's the mic. So be aware of that when you're looking at graphs. You should look at multiple graphs and keep it in mind. It's just the way the hobby goes. We can't all have the same exact thing, use the same exact tips, insert to the same depth, though we all should come to some agreement so there's a little more consistency. So the tuning of this is great. The replay is outstanding. Two drawbacks for this set. One is, I was going to say price, but I'm not going to say that because I think it's well worth $239. Planar technology is growing right now. Today is the 20th of June, 2022. There's probably multiple companies right now that are making planar sets that'll come to market over the next few months. It's like the stock market, buying in a valley and then selling at the mountaintop. Are we at the top of the mountain? Obviously, no. How much better is it going to get? No idea. What is the price of that going to be? No idea. When is it going to be maximized and then it starts getting same-faced again and again for about a couple of years until it plays out? No idea about that either. So is it a safe investment? To this point, yes. If I had to take one set of planar and just walk away, this would definitely be the set. I don't need to EQ. The low end is good. The mid-frequencies are not the best in the game, but that's kind of, I would have calmed that down in some other sets. And the price $239 compared to what other sets do, I would definitely take it. Wrapped Go, Hook X. If you're on the fence, get off it. Listen to this. This is a very good execution. Coming not so many months after the 7 Hertz, which is the first one that was really ready for prime time. So the Wrapped Go Hook X, yeah, wrecked again as many times as I can. And that's number 2. Okay, number 1.
Number 1.
The Dunu Vulcan. This is a set that is, it's eventually going to get out way in the market and a lot of people are going to fall in love with it. I am not a big fan of what Dunu's been doing for the past year and a half to 2 years. I didn't like the Titan S. I did not like the Falcon Pro. Don't need to go over that, but keeping your powder dry. I learned that with CA Audio because everything they released was pretty good, and I got really enthusiastic about it because I'm connected with Linsol. But when they released a really excellent set, the opinion was devalued because I had said all the CAs were pretty good. And eventually it gets to be ridiculous. Dunu, I took the smart road. I thought the Falcon Pro had way too much mid-bass. You take a look at that graph at your leisure. What that does to vocals and bass and percussion should be obvious. It's acoustic science. It's real. And it was unacceptable to me. The Titan S is thin. It's designed for a library that's not mine. My library doesn't accept that well. And people that follow my recs probably feel pretty similar to me. The Vulcan now is the first Dunu that I've really been super enthusiastic about. If you look at that graph right there, sub-bass over mid-bass, glides into the mids. Upper mids are slightly tame. It's got a treble that's got some energy around 7. As mentioned before, you can go ahead and look at this graph and then look at Dunu's own graph. It's almost absolutely identical considering they're using a different software. All the peaks and valleys are exactly in the same spot. Looking at the graph, you would think that the mid-bass would be way too polite. It's actually not. It is slightly polite, and it's for low frequency drops like hip hop. It doesn't really show itself. I gave an example and I talked about Tupac from Tupacalypse Now Violent, which has got a low drone in it, and it plays that kind of stuff well. So if you listen to stuff like Massive Attack, trip hop, I think you'll be fine with stuff like that. The issue comes with, that would be this album right here. Bass guitars, something where you got pulls and releases, that's something that is that will show its face. However, the overall tuning of the Vulcan has a milk chocolatey, smooth, sweet awesomeness to it that is just very impressive. There's 2 dynamic drivers. I believe one's taking care of the bass, one's taking care of the mids, and then the BAs are taking care of the treble, or upper mids and treble. I could be wrong there. I'm not sure, but that's probably the case. It sounds extremely impressive. When I got it, I listened to it and I liked it. And then one day while doing something else, I thought, I got extra time, put some more listening time into the Vulcan. And I just got pulled into one of those long listening music sessions, and I just thought, what a very impressive set. This is, I believe, $380. If you've never tried a Dunu before, I would highly recommend this be your first venture into it. It's a not unique configuration, but it's not common either. The two dynamic drivers. You could mention some in the comments. I know they exist, but the way that they did this was great. If they put more bass into this, it would change the entire character of the replay, and it would dominate because the upper mids are not very pronounced. I think they nailed it. I think that this late 7 to 9.5, a little bit more energy, about approximately the same as the ear gain, the peak around 3 kilohertz. I think it's a perfect balance. For my library, it just nails it. Again, everything's got a drawback. So the 2 points that I would mention about this, the mid bass can make kick drums and bass guitars sound less than, that impact, that what you feel between 65 and 85 hertz, and it's a little bit subdued, but it's not unnatural. And the overall replay and the it's hard to explain. It kind of pulls you in. It's very musical, and it's one of those sets that gives you a sense of being immersed in the music, amongst musicians, talented musicians, playing really good music. It's a very musical set. They did a really good job with it. I'm going to do a video review for it. I think it's the best set that's been released in 2022 so far. This and the Hook X would be the two sets I would say definitely grab. The other three I'm just noting as being among the 5 best that I've heard at this table with this library so far at the halfway point of 2022. Very good set. I'll let you go now. Dunu, bravo. Amazing set. And they have, as far as I know, excellent quality control. And then, of course, you get the cable with the changing termination. That's all gravy on top of the excellent garlic mashed potatoes of the audio community. That makes no sense. Let me go. I'm out.